We need, as historians and as American citizens, to push for the center, to say we're so tired of the toxic politics, and to understand that not all adjustments are betrayals. When Barack Obama changed his position in a thoughtful way, in a cautious way, on domestic surveillance, the domestic surveillance bill, he was nuanced. And he explained to supporters who were disappointed why he was making that move and what his red lines would be. I think, by contrast, his turnaround on rejecting public financing was simply dizzy. Shrewd, perhaps, but dizzy. Similarly, many Republicans' recognition that the Wall Street crisis required government intervention reflected a certain maturity, not spinelessness. Ultimately, this push for moderation is a push to reinvigorate American nationalism, an understanding that playing to the center, repudiating the Karl Rove, George W. Bush strategy of just trying to get 50% plus one and then pushing as far as you can your agenda, is an understanding that a democracy needs to have a healthy political culture. We cannot have a toxic political culture. And understanding also something that I think we American historians sometimes forget. Appalled as we are by some of the excesses of nationalism that we've seen in the 20th century and the 21st century, we forget that nationalism can also be a force for good. Committed as we are, and as we should be, to showing some of the weaknesses of the United States, we all too often forget to also explain the successes of the United States, the strengths of this country. By blogging through this election, by watching up close and occasionally plunging into the fray, I like to think I sharpened my ability to interpret this election in the future, as they say for the history books, without compromising my integrity too much. For starters, I have a kind of writer's diary. I have a blog of my impressions as Hillary Clinton, if you remember her, sputtered then surged, of John McCain's shifting identities, of Barack Obama's remarkable discipline that made him seem to be the most experienced candidate in the race. When I get to researching this election, I'll be able to compare more sharply what I thought was happening at the time with what insiders report on and we're trying to accomplish. And I can see, for example, looking over my blog entries, how my appreciation for Obama's skills grew, and also, of course, how that economic tsunami that none of us foresaw roared through the campaign in remarkable ways. So in blogging from the center during this campaign, in watching the remarkable rise of this young, talented, hope-generating politician, I, as a historian, felt privileged to see America's strengths, not just its weaknesses, to see a vision of American nationalism that was not just narrow, but broad and multicultural, and to help, or at least to delude myself into thinking that I was helping, that to try shifting the conversation in our profession and beyond from focusing on the margins to celebrating the center, from an obsession with extremists to an appreciation for moderates, from too many attempts at polarization and partisanship to Barack Obama's and John McCain's joint attempts at their respective bests to build a broad, inclusive, inspiring narrative for a nation that so badly needed it. As an initial step in emerging from the economic, diplomatic, social, cultural, and existential muck of the Bush and Clinton years. Thank you very much.